Hello, my name's Tom Bennett, the advisor to the Department for Education on school behaviour, and welcome to the virtual modules and behaviour resources. These modules and resources were developed for the Behaviour Hubs programme, and we wanted to make sure that as many people could access them, utilise them, and get the use out of them as possible, because we think they're very valuable and we think that they can help people develop their current school practice from a leadership level downwards. As I say, they were created for the Behaviour Hubs programme. The Behaviour Hubs programme ran for several years in England and matched over 750 schools as part of a school-to-school peer networking programme in order to enable best practice. The idea wasn't that some schools were perfect and other schools needed to meet that, but that some schools were at different stages in their school journeys, and that one of the best things they could do would be to share that experience with people who were on a different stage of their journey and wanted to learn more. We think it's been very successful. The Behaviour Hubs programme was based on my report, Creating a Culture, which itself was based on several fairly simple premises. We were looking to find out what it was that the best schools did to get a healthy behaviour climate or culture. And what that didn't mean was we were looking to find out what every school must do. Rather, we wanted to see what the most successful schools had in common. And by successful schools, we don't just mean the luckiest schools with the luckiest demographics. We mean the schools that did the best in the circumstances that they had. And often these were very challenging schools. We wanted to find out what the most inclusive schools were, the safest schools, the most dignified schools, and the schools that were the calmest and most predictable places where children could flourish. So we looked at hundreds of them and we distilled a fair amount of wisdom about what they all had in common, whether they were primary or secondary, mainstream or non. And we looked at rural, coastal, urban and suburban, all different types of schools to make sure that we weren't just homing in on one demographic and one type of school. And there was a lot that these best schools had in common. It was quite extraordinary. But what they had in common tended to be at a systems level. They tended to have leadership principles in common rather than specific strategies that they all used. In fact, schools could be very, very different from one another and still be incredibly successful. But we found that chaos always looked the same. So while there were thousands of different models of fantastic schools, what we were trying to avoid was schools being unsystematic in their practice, leading to chaotic practices, leading to things being done on an ad hoc basis, on a sporadic basis. I think one of the things I also loved on my journeys through all these schools was discovering that schools could be very, very different and that success was always possible, even in the most difficult of circumstances, that things could always get better, but it was never easy. But then I'm not here to say that it's easy. I'm here to say that it's important and that there are things we can do to make things better and that we're not helpless and that there are some things we can do to improve matters. Creating a Culture was based on the idea that leaders had the biggest levers when it came to managing school behaviour culture, and that what schools that were successful tended to base their behaviour practices on were what I call the behaviour curriculum, teaching the behaviours they needed to see in order to scaffold the right behaviours for children, rather than just prohibiting bad behaviour, although they did that as well. And it was a combination of these two principles, teaching good behaviour as well as prohibiting and responding appropriately to misbehaviour, that normally characterise the most effective school environments, whether it be special, mainstream or non-school environments. And that's what we think we try to embody in the peer-to-peer networking programme of the Behaviour Hubs, and that's what the resources tends to embody. We didn't want schools to copy one another. We wanted schools to take the best from one another and to work in a collegiate process and to work out what could work in their circumstances with their context and their resources, rather than simply mimicking or magpieing an idea from another school that might not work for them. So, broadly speaking, that's where we were when it came to creating a culture. We developed the programme itself, which I supervised, designed and ran, and we enabled all of these schools to meet with one another and to share over a year-long process to try to work out what it was they could do to improve. And the vast majority of schools reported that they had an extraordinarily good experience on the programme, learning from one another often, and sometimes reaffirming good practice that they already had, and sometimes exploring new avenues that they hadn't often considered. The virtual modules were designed to be taken as part of that process, but we also wanted to offer them to you as something that you could possibly look at and reflect upon. Now, they are delivered by a number of people, myself included, but also some of the other behaviour advisors that I assembled to help me put together these materials, because I wanted to draw upon the very best that the sectors had to offer. So we looked at mainstream experts, we looked at non-mainstream experts, primary and secondary, and so on. And we wanted to bring all these people together, and I assembled a team of Avengers to do so. So you'll meet all of them as you work your way through the virtual modules. The virtual models are designed to be a prompt, a reflection, an interrogation of what you already do. Some of it might make you think, some of it might make you think we do this already, but whatever it does for you, I hope that it prompts growth and change and help and hope indeed for you as well. Some of the other tools that are available, the audit and the action planning tool. These were paper tools or digital paper tools that we asked the schools to do when the partner schools and the lead schools worked together. That the lead schools would supervise the school that wanted to grow to do an audit of their own practices, to think about different areas of their own existing practices that maybe they could look more into, or maybe they already had, and to think about how they can action plan on the basis of this. So again, it would be a collegiate discussion guided by the lead school, but heavily involving the partner school in their own process and in their own growth, rather than something which was done to them. Because when you try to do something to a school environment, particularly to leadership, it just doesn't pan out. So that's what the audit and the action planning tools are for. Again, look at them, think about them, and reflect upon them. Obviously, we won't be delivering them to you in a direct way, but we offer them to you as a resource that you can use to interrogate your own practice. And also, it's also important to remember that some of the modules are targeted at specific areas of the school environment. Some of the modules are targeted at, for instance, the special needs environments. Some of the modules are targeted at more mainstream environments. Some of the modules are targeted at alternative provision environments and so on. So you might see some of the language reflecting that and some of the expertise reflecting that. There is an enormous consensus between the advisors and between what we put together, but we also wanted to include some differences of thought and opinion as a challenge to ourselves, as well as a challenge to the greater school communities beyond that. It has been our honour and our pleasure to put these things together, and I'm absolutely delighted that we've now made them available at greater length to people, because we think these things should be freely available, and we think they should be a resource to be used throughout the sector for anybody who wants to look at them and to use them and to help them to enable their own growth. The entirety of this programme is aimed at school behaviour culture. But when we talk about school behaviour culture, what we're really talking about is school culture. And when we talk about school culture, we're talking about everything that we do. If we don't get behaviour right in schools, almost nothing else is possible. Behaviour underpins every other aim that we're trying to achieve. Every child deserves a safe, calm and dignified environment where they are free to flourish and to become the best that they can be. And the school environment is one of the key levers, one of the crucial factors in that, especially for children who come from disadvantaged, chaotic, traumatic, neglectful or abusive environments. But not just them, for every child. The principles underpinning this programme are a rising tide that lifts all ships. And I am bullishly assertive that they can help you do the same. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching them, and I hope you get a huge amount of them. And also thank you for what you do on a day-to-day basis, because you probably don't get thanked enough. So on the behalf of the universe, let me thank you, and I hope you enjoy the modules. Goodbye.